Good evening. I'm Saraya Mia. You're watching AWANI Tonight. 4 more bodies have been found at the Father's Organic Farm campsite, bringing the death toll from the landslide to 30. 1 victim is still missing. The bodies recovered today were of 2 children, an adult female and an adult male. Hulu Selangor OCPD Superintendent Sufian Abdullah said the bodies were discovered at about 11:04 a.m. earlier today, under 7 meters of soil at Sector C riverside of the landslide site. Rescue and search operations entered its 7th day today. The operation resumed this morning after it was suspended last night, but were stopped at 2:30 p.m. following heavy rain. Meanwhile, police confirmed today that a total of 92 people were affected by the landslide on Friday, and not 94 as previously reported. Of that number, 61 were rescued. Meanwhile, flash floods may hit Johor, Pahang, Perak, Selangor, Terengganu and Sabah within 24 hours if there is heavy rain or significant thunderstorms. The warning was sent out by the National Flood Forecasting and Warning Center of the Drainage and Irrigation Department, DID. Based on high alert notice issued by the Warning Center at 7 a.m. today, the areas may be affected in Johor, Arco Tatinggi, Muar and Mersing. In Pahang, the notice lists 3 districts, Kuantan, Maran and Pekan. Meanwhile, in Perak, 2 districts are expected to be affected, namely Bagan Dato and Hilir Perak, while in Selangor it involves the Klang area. For Terengganu, they are at Marang and Kuala Terengganu, while in Sabah, the areas are in Tuaran. Residents in these risk areas are advised to be prepared and vigilant of the possibility of flash floods in the coming hours. The government said floods that hit several states in the country does not warrant them to declare a climate emergency yet. Home Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said certain processes and evaluations have to be done before such declaration can be made. Saifuddin said the flood situation is currently under control and operations are running well, with reports submitted regularly. Earlier, Muar MP Syed Sadiq Syed Abdul Rahman said he submitted a motion to the Dewan Rakyat to declare a climate emergency and discuss immediate flood mitigation measures to minimize the damage to the country. Last year's major flooding resulted in a loss of up to 6.5 billion ringgit, claiming 54 lives and affecting more than 300,000 families. Met Malaysia expects floods this year to affect 10 million people, worse than last year. The total development cost of the East Coast Rail Link ECR project is 74.96 billion ringgit. According to the Transport Ministry, the lower construction cost of the ECRL was achieved through a series of contract renegotiations. This amount involves the total construction cost of 50.27 billion ringgit and other development costs of 24.69 billion ringgit. The ministry maintained that the 74.96 billion ringgit total cost was lower than the original cost of 85.97 billion ringgit when the project was first launched in 2017. This follows the Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim's announcement on Wednesday that the cost for the ECRL project had been reduced by 11 billion ringgit. The PH government had halted the ECRL project momentarily when it came to power in 2018, after construction began in August 2017. The 665-kilometer rail network, which includes 59 tunnels, will traverse 4 states, Kelantan, Terengganu, Pahang and Selangor. In other news, Amanah Saham Nasional Berhad has declared an income distribution of 4.6 sen per unit for its main fund, Amanah Saham Bumiputra or ASB, for the financial year ending December 31st. The income distribution consisted of a dividend of 3.35 sen and a bonus of 1.25 sen. The Unit Trust Management Company, wholly owned by Permodalan Nasional Berhad PNB, also announced an additional bonus of 0.5 sen per unit for the first 30,000 units. PNB Chairman Tun Arifin Zakaria said this would bring the total income distribution amount to 8.9 billion ringgit, benefiting 10.6 million ASB unit holders. Last year, ASB's income distribution was 4.25 cent per unit. It also gave a bonus of 0.75 cent per unit. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Dato Sri Salahuddin Ayub announced the establishment of a permanent secretariat to handle issues relating to cost of living. He said the secretariat is an initiative by his ministry in cooperation with the Economic Affairs Ministry. Salahuddin said that the secretariat will be headed by the Secretaries Generals from his ministry and the Economic Affairs Ministry. It will also comprise representatives from the Statistics Department and the Economic Planning Unit. The Secretariat had been tasked to formulate a comprehensive action plan that would include short and long-term goals in tackling the rising cost of living. Businesses must equip themselves with technology and transform digitally to face the many unforeseeable challenges in 2023. To help with that, Catherine Lian, Managing Director and Technology Leader of IBM Malaysia, discusses technology trends that businesses can focus on to remain competitive and relevant.
It is imperative that organizations are seeing the drive of transformation, and across all different processes and task levels, it is going to be the automation investment that's leading the way to reduce a lot of pressures around economies and human resource. Second is trust in data and critical need for seamless integration. Now, observations are companies that are successful today are those that adapt to the environment of the quickest in learning, evolve, and making sure that the industry gets access to the right data and also the leveraging of data for the valuable insights and appropriate decisions making of business outcomes. Third, I would actually say is the cybersecurity that must be connected across the ecosystem. Now, the way that we actually look at the robust threat management capacity today is to understand what's really happening in our infrastructure and our point of exposure. We need to monitor to ensure that AI or automation comes in to address cyber security challenges today.
A survey by IBM of over 3,000 CEO of businesses found that most recognize sustainability as vital to businesses and drives growth. However, Catherine said most still face significant challenges when it comes to adopting and prioritizing sustainability measures.
From a recent IBM study, which surveyed across 3,000 CEOs worldwide, and we have found that more than 51% has cited sustainability as among their most significant challenges, with a lack of data insights, unclear return of investment, technology barriers, among others as hurdles. Only when we are armed with the right data can organizations create realistic plans, giving rise to the need of the right tools and technologies to unlock and discover what is actionable on time. Now, when we have been running through a lot of observations across organizations, ensuring that customers turn sustainability ambition into action through data-driven innovation with industry-leading technology capabilities is important. As we go into 2023, we are able to see more organizations and a much more informed organizations explore how technology will be able to play a very key role in advancing sustainability objectives. And working through together with government agencies today is important to make realize how sustainability is a chapter moving forward to make sure that organizations not only adopt, but they innovate around the outcomes that they are looking for today.
Time for a quick break. We'll be right back. Hi and welcome back. The World Health Organization expressed concern about the spike in COVID-19 cases in China. Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says the agency will continue to support China in curbing the spread of the virus.
WHO is very concerned over the evolving situation in China, with increasing reports of severe disease. In order to make a comprehensive risk assessment of the situation on the ground, WHO needs more detailed information on disease severity, hospital admissions, and requirements for ICU support. WHO is supporting China to focus its efforts on vaccinating people at the highest risk across the country.
Infections in China spiked after abruptly lifting its zero-COVID policy, and projections suggest China could face an explosion of cases and more than 1 million deaths next year. Tedros added, while COVID deaths dropped more than 90% since their global peak, there were still too many uncertainties about the virus to conclude that the pandemic is over. Some scientists warn that the unchecked spread of COVID-19 in China could spur the emergence of new variants, which might unravel progress made globally to contain the pandemic. In other news, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky received a standing ovation from lawmakers in his address at the U.S. Capitol today. He said that Ukraine will never surrender, warning that the stakes of the conflict were greater than just the fate of his nation.
We defeated Russia in the battle for minds of the world. We have no fear, nor should anyone in the world have it. Ukraine's gained this victory, and it gives us courage, which inspires the entire world.
Zelensky assured Americans that their money wasn't being wasted in Ukraine, saying its soldiers knew perfectly well how to operate complex U.S. weapon systems and planes. This after Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced a $1.85 billion military package for Ukraine that includes a Patriot missile system. Zelensky is on his first known trip outside his home country since Russia invaded. Before his address, he met with U.S. President Joe Biden earlier at the White House for a bilateral meeting between high-ranking officials from both nations, followed by a joint press conference where Biden pledged to help the leader for as long as it takes. Women in the Afghan capital Kabul protested after the Taliban halted university education for females. Condemnation has been growing at home and abroad amid increased restrictions to women's rights. About 24 women marched on the streets on Thursday, calling for freedom and equality. The country's Taliban rulers earlier this week ordered women nationwide to stop attending private and public universities, effective immediately and until further notice. Despite initially promising a more moderate rule respecting rights for women and minorities, the Taliban have widely implemented their interpretation of Islamic law, or Sharia, since they seized power in August 2021. They have also banned girls from middle school and high school, barred women from most fields of employment, and banning women from entering public parks and gyms. Over in Israel, veteran leader Benjamin Netanyahu announced he has formed a new government, returning to power as head of the country. Following his win in the elections last month, he secured a mandate to form a government backed by ultra-Orthodox Jewish parties and a far-right bloc. Netanyahu's Conservative Party and other religious nationalist parties won a comfortable majority in the November 1st election, but agreement to form a government was delayed by disputes over proposed legislation issues ranging from planning authority in the West Bank to ministerial control over the police. The new government ends the political gridlock that has plagued Israel and saw the country go to the polls 5 times in less than 4 years. It also replaces the coalition that had ousted Netanyahu in 2021. It is not immediately clear when the new government will be sworn in, although Netanyahu intends to do so as soon as possible. He has already served as premier longer than anyone in Israeli history, first from 1996 to 1999, and then from 2009 to 2021. That's all for you on AWANI Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Saraya Mia, and we'll see you again.